Bowsie happy? Bowsie happy? Bowsie's happy. Look at that. She is so happy. Well, I'm SonicBlu, owner of this little girl here named Bowsie. Those of you that have been following Bowsie's vlogs would know by now that this is a very happy, healthy baby girl. Of course, no, she's not a baby anymore. She's a fully grown adult. She is over 5 years old and very happy. Look at that happiness. Now, folks, she's not doing this because she's having trouble breathing. She's not doing this because she's too hot. She's doing this out of sheer happiness because she loves spending time with her daddy. But I'm here to tell you what to do with an aggressive bearded dragon. Now, a question have popped up in a group that I belong to on Facebook, and they ask, and I wish I could pull up the message for you right now, but I can't because I can't find it. But trust me, it's there. When somebody asked, how do you deal with an aggressive aggressive bearded dragon? I think it's only happened just that one day. But they ask, how do I deal with an aggressive bearded dragon? They won't let me come near. Every time I come near, they puff out their beard at me. They try to snap at me. What do I do? What do you do? Well, what would Bowsie do? What would Bowsie do? How would you handle that, baby? Well, Bowsie doesn't really understand what I'm saying, but I'm just going to hold her up here so she can look pretty for the camera so I can let you know that anytime you get a bearded dragon, it's always best, first of all, to get them as infants so that you can grow with them and they can create that bond that starts earlier on. When they start that bond with you, chances are you're not going to have an aggressive adult on your hands. Now, if you get a bearded dragon as an adult, chances are there is a good likelihood that they could be aggressive. But it also depends on their personality, how well they're being taken care of, and how often you spend time with them. Even as adults, if you get them as adults, it all depends on how much time you spend with them, how much coordination you have with them. And if you don't spend enough time with your bearded dragon, they can't possibly form the bond, and therefore they will increase the likelihood of becoming very aggressive towards you. But let's say, for example, that you understand all of this, and that you give as much time as possible to your bearded dragon, and they're still aggressive. First of all, bearded dragons all have different personalities. It all depends on how well you work together and how well you understand their behavior and how well you deal with some certain issues whenever there's a problem. And I've been with Bowsie here for, all of her life practically, from 6 weeks on. So I know how to handle Bowsie. Yeah, I know how to handle you, especially when you get into mischief. Yeah, you remember those times, don't you? Yes, of course you do. But let's just say, for sake of argument, that Bowsie was all of a sudden just turned aggressive. Here's what I would do. First of all, I would put them down. I would watch over them, make sure they don't run off anywhere. But I would put them down in an area where you can keep track of them and they won't get lost. Don't put them down on the floor. Put them down on a bed, put them down on a table, on your desk, somewhere high enough where they don't have much room to run around and they can't possibly get lost. I'm not holding Bowsie up for the camera. Then what you want to do is let them calm down for a bit. And they usually calm down with the sound of their owners' voices. Especially when they speak nice and cute and like almost baby-like. Like this. Hi, baby. My Bowsie girl. Is Bowsie a happy girl? You do have to sound ridiculous in order to calm your bearded dragon down. And then what you want to do is, once you think that you've gotten past the aggression part and they acknowledge that you're there, slowly approach them. And don't use any sudden moves. Don't grab for them. Don't reach for them too quickly. Just show them that you can be trusted and they can trust you every bit that they can. And Bowsie's getting stuck on my robe. Come on, Bowsie. Uppity up. I need to trim your nails. But anyway. Okay, come here, Bowsie. Yes, I know. You're very hyper now. It's past her brumation period, so that's why she's a little on the hyper side right now. It's breeding season for Bowsie because of the time that you were born. You were born in the autumn, which means your chances are will brumate around that time. And then when you get out of brumation, you're ready to mate. Even though usually bearded dragons usually do this during the winter and then come out of brumation in the spring and then get ready to mate then. But since Bowsie is a little late bloomer, she'll tend to brumate in the wintertime and then come out of it sometime around late winter, around this time, around mid to late winter, and then she'll want to become aggressive and run around. But anyway, I'm just going to put Bowsie up here because I think she's done gaping for everybody right now, and she wants to explore. Anyway, back to what I was saying. After you have established a sense of trust with your bearded dragon, and especially when they feel aggressive, they'll start puffing their beard out at you, they'll open their mouths up in an aggressive way, and remember how I told you how they gape their mouths open? Their tongues will reach to the bottom of their mouths, in their jaw. When you see the tongue go down and the beard puff out and the mouth opens wide, that's when they're getting ready to strike. Now, Bowsie, whenever she gapes, she never puts her tongue down at the bottom of her jaw because that's an aggressive gape, and she's never really gaped aggressively toward me or anybody else. So thank goodness for that. But let's say, for example, for the sake of argument, you actually have a bearded dragon that all of a sudden starts showing some aggressive tendencies towards you. And this is what you would pretty much need to do. First of all, don't panic. That is a sign of intimidation toward the dragon. If you panic and you make sudden moves, you're going to scare your bearded dragon even more, and it's going to take longer for the aggression to subside. So basically what we got here is set them down, give them some space, watch over them, make sure they don't go anywhere. There was my soda. My soda. Oddly enough, nothing spilled out of it. Maybe a little bit. That was my soda. Okay, so stop talking with the hand, Sonic. Start talking with soda. That is weird. Okay, so it must have fallen like this, folks. And I can hold it like this. There is soda in here. But it fell like that. And nothing spilled out of it. So thank goodness for that. Anyway, back to what I was saying once again. I'm sorry I keep getting sidetracked. So let's go over the steps one more time. First of all, bearded dragon shows some aggression. You set them down, give them some space, watch over them to make sure they don't go anywhere, they don't get lost or stuck in a tight corner somewhere. You want to put them in a wide open area, like on a bed, on your desk, on a table, somewhere where there's not too many areas for them to slip into and get lost. Secondly, what you want to do is give them their space, give them about 5 minutes just watching them, just let them tough it out on their own, and then when you're ready to approach, start speaking to your bearded dragon in a very hushed, calm tone. Make very slow movements towards your bearded dragon, and then hopefully, while you're still talking to them, start reaching for them slowly, and if they puff out at you at all, if they start gaping very aggressively at you, then they're not ready to be handled. So give them some more space. Eventually, you're going to talk them down. Once that happens, then you can start reaching for them, give them a little stroke, showing them that, hey, I'm not here to hurt you, I'm here to take care of you, and usually that helps reduce the aggressive, I don't trust you attitude that they sometimes will have if they are prone to doing this. Then you can start slipping your hand underneath them to pick them up. And doing all of these steps will ensure that your bearded dragon may have their moments where they will appear aggressive towards you. It depends on the bond that you share with them, it depends on how they were raised, it depends on their personalities, and it also depends on their behaviors. If their behavior patterns are consistent, chances are, if they ever become aggressive towards you, it's not going to be often. If it ever happens at all. And like I said, Bowsie is going to be 6 years this October. She has never once been aggressive. But here are some tips to prevent your bearded dragon from becoming aggressive. 1, buy your bearded dragons as babies or juveniles. However they are becoming available to you, buy them at the youngest age possible. But you have to wait at least 6 weeks before that happens, because that's the time that they need to spend with their parents in order to mature, so that way they can be removed from the parents and you can start taking over as their primary caregiver. So 6 weeks old is the youngest that you could possibly get a baby bearded dragon. Then, once you've got that down, spend as much time as you possibly can with your bearded dragon. Feed them with all healthy foods that they need in order to survive, in order to become healthy. Spend lots of time with them, lots of quality time. Understand their behaviors, understand their attitudes. Sometimes they don't feel like being handled, and sometimes they want to be handled. Know when the right time it is to handle them, and when it's not the right time to handle them. Once you get that down and you start establishing that you're there to be there for them, they're there for you, and you start forming that trusting bond with each other, then you can handle them a lot more often, and they know that, hey, you know, my daddy's here, my mommy's here, we're going to be spending time together, and they love it. So wait for that bond to be shared before you start handling your bearded dragon a lot more often. And that ensures that no matter what time of day it is, no matter when it is, of course when they're awake. Don't do this when they're sleeping, because this does upset them. But whenever they're awake, during regular, normal daytime, afternoon, even evening hours, you can handle them anytime they're ready. Chances are they want to spend time with you. Once the bond is formed, then you can spend as much time together as you want to. Feed them with all great foods. Feed them with a lot of healthy nutrients that they need in order to survive and thrive. Supply their calcium, so that way they don't develop metabolic bone disorder. Always check them for parasites. That's always important. And always keep their terrarium clean, scrubbed, maybe like about once every other week. Scrub out their terrariums, make them, give them a reason to live a very long, healthy life. And not only will they thank you for it in their own way, but you will have a very healthy and happy bearded dragon, one who is less prone to aggression than somebody who neglects their bearded dragon, somebody who maybe purchases it as an adult, haven't formed the bond yet, and chances are your bearded dragon may show some aggressive tendencies, because they never know what they're going to get into with a new owner. So always follow these techniques. If you're going to have a bearded dragon, always best to get them at the youngest age possible. And if you just can't avoid it, then you have to make up for that by spending as much time as possible with them and understand their behaviors and understand their body languages. I have a whole slew of videos in Bowsie's vlogs that tell you all about their behaviors and how to understand them. So once you get all of that down, then you can spend as much time with your bearded dragon as possible, and they'll love you for it, and they will trust you. They will be less prone to aggression. So that is how basically to handle an aggressive bearded dragon. I am here with Bowsie here, and I can pick her up anytime, and even if she doesn't want to or doesn't feel like it, she'll crawl back down if she wants to be, cuddled, or if she just wants to veg out or relax. So this brings us into our anecdote. And of course, as you know, Bowsie has always been willing to show everybody how happy she is on camera, and even off camera, like today. I picked her out of her terrarium just a few moments ago, and she didn't show any signs of wanting to get out. Like, she didn't do any glass surfing. She was just sitting on top of her cave, minding her own business. Then I come along, and I open up her terrarium. I'm like, Bowsie, you want to come out with Daddy? So she gets into position to be picked up, because she knows when it's time to be picked up. She'll start hunching up onto her legs, so that way I can get my hand underneath her and pick her up. And she knows what that means. So she gets into position for her to be lifted out of her terrarium. And then she'll climb up. She'll go willingly, but she has never once resisted. And she always likes to spend time out of her terrarium. I just cleaned it out not too long ago, but once I got her out, she was pretty warm. Not hot, mind you, not very hot. She wasn't really basking. She was between the hot and cold points of her terrarium, so she was at least above room temperature. She was about in the 90s. So I took her out, and I let her, cool down a little bit, down to room temperature, and maybe even a little colder than that, because they are cold-blooded animals. So they will tend to go colder than room temperature if they're just sitting there on your shoulder or on your chest or anything, anywhere that, they get very little resignation from your body heat going into them. So she's a little colder than room temperature, and she's still gaping like crazy. The first time I took her out, I was thinking, okay, maybe she's a little on the hot side. She needs to pant. She needs to regulate her temperature. But once she started cooling down, she started gaping a little less. But every time I looked over at her, and I was just editing a video a moment ago, and every time I looked down at her, she just always looks up to me with this huge gape, like she's happy to be, looking at me. And every time I looked over at her, she would gape for me. And then I would go back to my work, and then I'd work for about 5 or 10 minutes. I look over at Bowsie, and she opens her mouth again. She's gaping at me. She stares right into my eyes and gapes. So I thought, wow, that is just the most precious thing in the world when you know you have a bearded dragon who really trusts you and really shares the love with you. Now, this is one of the reasons why bearded dragons, among any other lizard in the animal kingdom, shows affection. In the way they gape, in the way they're handled, in the way that they love to latch onto their owners. That is their way of showing the love. That is their form of love. And they will show it to you if you treat them the best you possibly can. And you have to really take care of their needs. You have to really watch what you're doing and really spend a lot of time, because owning a bearded dragon requires commitment. And if you're not committed to take care of your bearded dragon, you may have an aggressive one on your hands, and then you may need to learn how to deal with them later. So remember these tips. Always remember, your bearded dragon is a living creature with personalities of its own. And this one has a very happy one, as you can see. So, Bowsie, are you a happy girl? Are you happy? Are you a happy girl, baby? Yes, you are happy, huh? I talk to her all the time, and she loves it. Hi. See? We have a little back and forth, too. And those of you that know me and Bowsie already know that we do have a little signal that we throw back and forth. And she'll gape, then I'll gape, then she'll gape wider, then I'll gape wider, and I'll start talking to her in baby talk, and she loves it. She loves every bit of it. Don't you, Bowsie? Don't you, baby girl? Got another gape for me? Are you happy? I see it forming. I see it starting to form. Hi. Hi. Hi, Bowsie. Hi, baby. Got another smile? Give me a gape. Are you a happy girl? Let me give you a nuzzle to get you started. Hi. Hi, baby. No, she's just looking pretty now. No, okay, now she's done gaping, now she wants on me. I know what that means. When she moves her feet like that, she's getting ready to climb off. So she wants to be up here now. But you see, understanding their behaviors brings you closer to your bearded dragon. You have to really understand what it is they're feeling and what it is they want to do. Sometimes they want to perch on your arm. Sometimes they want to cuddle up to you on your chest. Sometimes they want to climb up to the top of your head. You have to be prepared for all of this if you own a bearded dragon. You have to understand what it is they want based on how they move, or just the look in their eyes. I can tell by the look in their eyes. I'm very empathic, so I can tell what she's feeling just by looking into her eyes and what she wants to do or what she's going to do. Like whether she's ready to jump off of my arm or do some crazy maneuver, I know when she's going to do it because she's got that look in her eye. But that's a little bit going advanced. I don't expect anybody to know what their bearded dragon is going to do next just by the look in their eyes. Unless you're very empathic and you know your bearded dragon, then you know exactly what they're going to do by the way they look in their eyes, or what they're looking at, or the way they move their feet, or the way they kind of back up or move forward. It's all body language. And I'm able to determine exactly what Bowsie wants just by her body movements and just by the looks in her eyes, and also the meaning behind their gapes. And if you want to know more about the gapes, check my gaping video. But that's all about the time I have for tonight on Bowsie's Vlogs, and that's pretty much how you deal with an aggressive bearded dragon. So from all of us here at Bowsie's Vlogs, we would like to remind you that if you do own any exotic pets, whether it's a snake, a lizard, or anything like that, or maybe even a tropical bird, always check around your area for the closest place that you can take your exotic pet whenever it's sick and whenever it needs medical attention. Always check around your area for a veterinarian that deals with exotic pets, so you know exactly where to go if you need them for an emergency. And always remember to give them their annual checkups, and while they're there in your home, look them over, make sure they don't have parasites, make sure they're not missing any limbs, any fingers, any arms, any legs, or part of their tail. You may want to make sure you give them proper diet and exercise. Take them out once in a while, let them run around, because they love doing that. And always remember, be patient with your bearded dragon, and they will be patient with you. And they will return all the love you give them in their own very cute and very manipulable little ways. So, anyway, this is Bowsie's vlog. This is SonicBlu. Here's Bowsie, very happy and really wanting to cuddle now. But anyway, hope you enjoy the blogs. If you are in need of any more bearded dragon tips, feel free to ask me any questions. If you know somebody who owns a bearded dragon who needs some extra tips, send them my way. I will definitely show them the way to having a very happy and healthy bearded dragon. And and don't forget, your veterinarian is there for you and your pet. So, from all of us here at Bowsie's Vlogs, we wish you lots of luck in the care of your bearded dragons. Take care.